This episode brought to you by Nomadic Research, built for the wild and forged in adversity. Somewhere between the front lines and the firelight, a vision was born. The founders of Nomadic Research spent years in the harshest environments on Earth, where grit and resilience weren't just words, but a way of life. They saw a need for gear that could handle anything, gear that wasn't just built, but built to last. From battlefields to backcountry trails, every piece of Nomadic Research gear is designed with one mission: unyielding performance for those who refuse to quit. The founders believe in patriotism, personal responsibility, and the freedom of the great outdoors, because adventure isn't just a weekend escape, it's a way of life. Born in the heart of Afghanistan, forged in adversity, and built for the wild, Nomadic Research is gear for those who go further. You can start your adventure at nomadicresearch.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the studio, Travis Wookie Wilson. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, not much. Just living the dream, enjoying my Saturday. It's a nice little Saturday I got going on.
Let's go over your list. 21 years U.S. Army veteran, 13 of those in Special Forces, correct?
Yes, sir.
Son of an Air Force pararescueman. Mom was an Air Force nurse.
Yeah, 2-year nurse. Yeah, for a hot minute. Yeah.
Yeah. You're the founder and CEO, Alpha Elite Performance, founder of Alpha Elite Performance Outdoors, founder of Project Recon, co-founder of Mutant Munition, longtime ambassador for the Green Beret Foundation. Is there anything really that you don't do?
Well, outside of my wife likes to say that I do so much for everybody else that I should be a billionaire by now. I don't do the mutant munition thing anymore. I still have 3 commercial ammo making machines I need to get rid of, but I don't do that anymore. But yeah, no, I do a lot. I think it keeps me sane.
Do you think that comes from all the way back in your history, though? I mean, you have always, even when you joined the military, you weren't Special Forces yet. You didn't go in as an 18 X-ray, but you went in as an airborne medic because you wanted to go over into that. Do you think that was always kind of there, of just pushing the limits on everything?
Yeah, you know what? Obviously I got it from my father. He was an Air Force pararescue guy. I used to wake up to, you know, parts of the Ballad of the Green Beret being sung to me to wake me up. And he was a PJ. Later in life, I found out that he really respected the Green Berets that he picked up in Vietnam and always wondered where they came from. His job was hard as well. He did some crazy stuff, was part of that Bat 2-1 mission that they made a movie after, Boxer 2-2, and a bunch of others. But yeah, he was always pushing me and always talking about leadership. So much so in college, my first year in a military academy before actually joining the Army, he would spell leadership in the corners of the envelopes, before computers and before email. He'd mail me letters. But yeah, it was definitely something that my father instilled in me and just kept pushing me. And yeah. And I think it progressed later in life as well.
Well, I think a big one, though, to point out is when you go to Wentworth Military Academy, you're there for a year and you don't like it, which is kind of strange to me, because later on you live that whole military life, but it seems like at that age it just wasn't for you.
No, I was not ready for that environment. I was extremely immature. I thought my shit didn't stink. You know, it, I I think that was more of a push by my father saying, "You need this military academy," because he saw that I needed more structure than what he was giving me or gave me. Um, so yeah, I just had a problem with kids my own age, screaming at me. So it didn't really work out too well. But, I remember it and I appreciate it and I don't have any regrets. I regret quitting. I do that. I regret quitting after a year.
Do you think, though, and this is completely hypothetical, do you think, though, say you stay there, right? You fit in, you think your military career is different?
Yes. Yeah, I would have been an officer because it's a 2-year early commissioning program. And then you go on, you're an officer in the National Guard. And then you have a certain amount of time to finish your 4-year degree and you can go active duty if you want. Yeah, it would have been completely different. And so I truly believe that everything happens for a reason.
I
There was a
agree.
direction. There was a reason why I went to that school, and I learned what I learned. I went through basic camp twice, really basic training twice, because I had to go to basic camp at Fort Knox, And then when I did go active duty, they were like, "Yeah, you're going to basic training." Come to find out, once I'm there, they're like, "The hell are you doing here? You've already got this, So I was really just kind of like a E3 senior E3 dude at basic training the second time around, which was kind of cool. But yeah, my life would have been completely different.
Uh, and I bring that question up because when I look at it, you seem like you really lived that enlisted life. And I think we can both agree that there are two different worlds in the military, the officer life and the enlisted life. And it seems like you attached yourself to that family of the enlisted life and the NCO and being the backbone and everything way more than I think you would have as an officer because you're separated out.
Yeah, no, again, I think at the beginning it had to do with maturity. I saw kids in the enlisted side that I was like, man, that dude could be an officer, and people thought that of me too because of my stature. I'm 6'3", it's broad shoulders, all this good stuff. And people always said, man, you look like an officer. Yeah, well, mentally, I wasn't there yet. Um,
Right.
at some point in my career, yeah, I could have absolutely, dropped a packet and tried to go to OCS for sure. But I did enjoy the enlisted side. I felt more of a connection with that brotherhood. I mean, I love the officers that I worked with, but the connection between enlisted, which the officers say the same thing too, is like a West Point cadet who graduates, and they've got that connection with that brotherhood, from the academy and so forth. Um, but yeah, the enlisted side of the house was pretty awesome, and I would say more fun.
So, talking about the maturity thing, how far do you think into your career that you were before you were mature?
Um, right before I went to selection. So about, I don't know, about 3, 4 years of really, being a medic in the army. I got stationed up in Alaska, some, everybody calls, training deployments now, but we went to Thailand, Australia, Guam, Korea. We had a lot of fun up there in the Pacific Rim. Uh, yeah, at 3 or 4 years after graduating high school in 1993, I think that the maturity really started to take shape, and I mean, yeah, I met a girl too and got married. So, that's definitely going to help. And, you had to navigate some issues, while stationed in Alaska and on my first duty assignment. And yeah, that maturity level really kicked in. Might not have worked out a little bit because that marriage ended, but, you know, it got me to selection, and you really have to be mature when you go through selection. You're not gonna pass unless you are focused and mature, and can do what you're told, or not told, because a lot of the times you just need to know what needs to happen.
Right. Well, let's talk about it. 1995 is when you join.
Yeah.
We're talking about a time where I've talked to a lot of guys on the show. It's a very different time in the military in 1995. It's a peacetime world. At most, it's a peacetime world. The
Yeah.
the events of 9/11 haven't happened. Desert Storm has already happened. All of those kind of things. When you see your dad's experience that he had in the military, and you see how it's changed to when you joined in, what's kind of your perspective on the world at that time? Because like you said, you're not really mature, you're having fun in the military, but what's your kind of global outlook on the world at that time?
The global outlook that you know what? I didn't look at the world, back then like I do now, or soon after 9/11. It all changed for everybody, right?
Of course.
I was having fun, man. I was a medic in an airborne infantry unit, seeing the world, So, um, yeah, I was just having fun, but knowing that wasn't it for me. I wanted to be a Green Beret, so I, really started to prep mentally for that. Um, and I knew that those guys, that they saw shit all the time. They would go on J sets, or go and combat advise and do things like that. So that's what I really really wanted. And so that's it's one of the reasons. I mean, just my dad was special operations, but it was also wanting more, and that's really what pushed me into going to the selection. So
Well, and if you look at it, when we talk about that and you say you weren't really mature up until about 4 years in, you're seeing stuff at 18, 19, 20 years old that people won't see their entire lives. And so
yeah.
it seems weird to me when you say that you didn't really think of a global outlook when you technically were moving around globally at the time. You were seeing way more culture, way more diversity than 90% of the other people your age. So what do you think it was that kind of held you back from seeing that global outlook?
Immaturity. Like I honestly, I did all that fun stuff. Went to Thailand, Australia, Guam, Korea, and I played Army. I played GI Joe in other countries, which was awesome, and I had a lot of fun. I didn't respect it, kind of like nature. I lived in Alaska too as a child, and I didn't respect Alaska like I do now. I see it now, and I'm just in awe. You know, I see the Northern Lights now, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Before it was like, oh, neato, aliens, or you're just you're just immature. So. Um, that's what it was. It was just I think, you know, I just was not mature. I don't even know if that's the right word then. Maybe I just didn't care. Um,
Well, I was thinking, is it more of the way I would present it, is it more of a selfish thing? You're looking out for what makes you happy than what would make you happy down the road. What makes you happy right now?
yeah, no, absolutely selfishness. I mean, that kind of comes with maturity or the lack thereof. So, yeah, yeah, you know, yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. Absolutely. Selfishness had a lot to do with it. I was there to be a medic in the airborne, uh, party with my buddies, have a good time. Had a hot little wife at the time, and that's all it was.
Well, let's talk about that. You mentioned the wife. What do you think was the thing that made that kind of come apart?
Well, a number of things. Obviously we had a son that, passed away, which I don't think that I was really prepared for. Um, it was cool. I was going to be a dad, but then you start thinking like, Jesus, I'm just a kid, and I'm about to be a father. I think that I started to mature a little bit then. But once he passed away, and she had also lost her father before our son passed away, like soon before, and put him in the ground. And so it affected both of us. It affected us both extremely different, though. Um, Mine was, and I hate to say this just because this is not how I feel now at all, but kind of like almost a relief. Like, man, I don't have to be a dad now. I was sad. I hated it. It made me cry, because I also thought about, oh God, I was going to have such a great time with my boy. He was a boy. So, um, but yeah, I think, the selfishness, the immaturity, um, it really just kind of played a role into the demise of our marriage. And then I don't think, uh, I don't think either one of us really tried to save it. She wanted to go back home. She left Alaska. She went back home to be near her father where he was buried, and she took, buried our son there as well. Um, and she just wanted to be with her family. She's a very family knit oriented person. So there was like, okay, more selfishness, probably some immaturity. She's going to go. And now I'm single in the army and going to rock and roll and have a good time. Uh, then that was a chapter of my life that I think I just closed immediately and regretted for a lot of my life, and still do. We're friends now. We talk, text every now and then. On the anniversary of his death, we talk, or whenever she needs advice, she'll reach out and ask for some help on that, and just some good memories that we did have. She knew my father really well, so it kind of came full circle. I think we're better friends, than husband and wife when we were just kids.
So you got to walk me through that conversation because just how you describe it there, you guys are looking at that death and even probably your marriage through completely different lenses. How do you take someone when she lost her father, so she's grieving that, then she loses the son, so she's obviously, engrossed in emotion and grieving and all of those kind of things. And you take the other stance of it as, well, I'm kind of relieved. I'm sad, but I'm relieved that that's over. How do you guys even have a conversation? Because those are so polar opposites of each other. How do you even approach that situation with each other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I only ever remember one conversation, and that was me crying, essentially just apologizing, for what I don't remember. Um, but I remember that being the end, after having this conversation with tears, it just seemed like it fizzled out. It went away. And, Yeah, and she went back home. She, did everything that she had to do to prepare for a divorce and to, move back to South Dakota where she was from. And yeah,
And you
it,
just threw yourself back into work?
yeah, absolutely. Yep. We lived off base at the time, and I threw myself right back in. I moved into the barracks, and was near the guys, near the team dudes, not team dudes, but at that time I was in the regular army. But
Right.
yeah, I was just on base, doing my job, doing whatever we needed to do. Didn't really
Are
start dating or anything, but did at some point.
right. Are you going out, are you partying, though, with your guys? Because that's a work hard, kinda play hard environment. Are you doing that, and
Yeah,
is that kinda masking everything that's going on behind the scenes? Because I'm sure your closest friends knew about it, but I don't think a lot of people probably knew about it.
yeah, man, you ask all the right questions. You must be an investigator or something like that. But I love it. Did you go to that John Reed course of interrogation?
Well, I'll explain that one off air. No, I did not go to that one.
Oh, I did. I went to it. But, yeah, absolutely. I was in the barracks, and, of course, when you're in the barracks and
Of course.
your brothers are gonna be like, "Man, that sucks, but hey, welcome to the brotherhood, welcome to that team," and I was an NCO at the time, so I got, like, the big room with my own bathroom. I didn't have to share the barracks bathroom and all that stuff, so I was Big Daddy Wilson, and, um but at this point, though, I do remember I'm in the barracks now, and I've been given some additional duties of making sure these guys are cleaning and all that stuff. I do remember, my job and my mentality, everything changing all of a sudden, thinking it was gonna be a lot of fun. But now I've got all these additional duties and these guys kind of to babysit, all these privates and keeping them in line. And then, on times that I had staff duty or whatnot, making sure that the CQs are doing their job. But it was still a lot of fun, and it was good to hang out with those guys. And it absolutely masked probably any emotions that a normal person uh, would have experienced. I mean, it was almost kind of sociopathic. I just didn't have the feelings at that time until later in life. But now, my mind shifted to okay, I got to do something better than this because I definitely don't want to be in the barracks, with regular army dudes.
I wanna ask you, though, you talked about that you didn't even think about it. When do you think the first time in all of this that's happening, when do you think is the first time you sit down and actually, like, look back on it? And it really, I don't know if I wanna use the word haunted, but you were like, "Shit." When do you think the first time that was?
Before having my first child with my second wife, yeah, I remember thinking about where you know my first son would have been and what age and the relationship between the two kids being my second son, but my first son really that what kind of relationship they would have had. I thought about that, and I do remember it. Like oh God, that sucked. Like it sucks to not have him. It would have been so cool to know him. And I firmly believe that I will meet him one day, and have some apologizing to do. But not necessarily apologizing, but because it wasn't his fault, it wasn't my fault that he passed away. It was just how it happened. Um, but yeah, it's
Did you reach out?
to
When
her
you
or
start thinking about that, yeah, did you reach out?
oh man, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just say yes. I probably reached out to her first, but we've always once Facebook became a thing, we were always connected via Facebook. Um, but we didn't communicate probably for 7 years or so after she left, really. I mean, there was some small communication just to make sure she was settled and stuff when she got back home, but we didn't really communicate. I saw her and what she was doing, and she got married and all this good stuff. And, um, but yeah, but reaching out once we really started, talking more once my 2 boys were born because she now has 2 boys as well, and it's a comparison, and she speaks highly of me to her kids. I mean, so much so that I've sent one of them I had a cymbal from a drummer from the band Five Finger Death Punch, and he's a drummer, and I sent him that, and they both wanted to meet me because they know the story of their brother that's not here, intimately, and, um, she's always been a wonderful and I'll say her name, Julie, she's always been a wonderful, like, connector. She's comes from a big family, Catholic family. Family's huge. Um, and I know that all of this was extremely difficult on her, and she was extremely strong in holding in those emotions and feelings, because she did, she said things later in life, and how it made her feel, and all I could do was apologize, and I didn't make excuses. I had no excuses, uh, so, but we both come to terms with it, and you know, I think like any normal person, she said we both made mistakes, you know? So, but I like to carry the weight of that on my shoulders more than her, because I don't think that she deserves that. So,
So we're talking 98 there. 99, you attend Special Forces, correct? You SFAS is when you go then, 1999.
yep, yep, 1999, yeah.
But instead of going straight through, you do a little thing and you take a 2-year break and go back to college.
Yeah, right. Uh, yeah, they weren't happy about that.
You think?
I felt like I was telling my father all over again that I'm leaving the military academy, because he wasn't happy about that, being an officer himself, because he retired as an officer. He was a PJ, but then became a PA. And yeah, they weren't happy at all, because they were like, okay, cool, you're going to go to the Q course. I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to go back to school and play hockey. And it was because nothing was going on, and my buddy who I grew up with he was in the Army as well. And he got out and he went to Boise State. We grew up playing hockey together, and he was like, man, you should come to Boise State and just play hockey. You can make this team, blah, blah, blah. And immaturity got the best of me, I think. Again, everything happens for a reason. I think that I might have been a little bit too immature to go to the Q course. Physically, I was fit. I went to selection and I kept my mouth shut. I did what I was told. Damn near died on one of the last iterations with one of the cadre. Was just like, and I've never Sergeant First Class Bitterman is it's in his name, Bitterman. This dude was evil, and I remember doing one of the team week things and him whispering in my ear, because I was leading it and I couldn't talk, and people will cough to try and get you to slow down, but you got to go the speed of the cadre who's not wearing a 50-60 pound rucksack and not soaking wet. And he just leaned into my ear and he just said, 500 meters, 500 meters, because my head was down, I was drenched, and I actually carry that with me now, 500 meters. I use that saying a lot, but I made it to the end of that, and then I just remember people pouring water on me because I was just so exhausted, and I thought that was great. But where was I going with that? Uh, yeah, they were pissed, yeah, But I busted my ass to get through that, and I let myself down too. I did feel pretty bad about it. Uh, like, where would I was in college and I was playing hockey and having fun. More fun, more, basically living in the hockey house, like living in the barracks and whooping it up, and girls, being a hockey player was nothing but about his girls in school and hockey. Um, and so, yeah, but I got all that out of my system, because once the war started kicking off, 9/11 happened as well. I mean, I didn't want to miss that, and I remember telling myself, yeah, you're going to go back, so. But yeah, I did that, and I didn't even finish, like, went to Boise State, and because of the wars and all that, I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. But I mean, I should have just stuck around for those last 2 semesters, or semester and a half, I think. I don't know. But yeah, it's I wanted to go to war, so it's like, all right, let's do this. Let's quit school. I've talked about this before.
What's that conversation like after you tell your parents, I'm not going to the Q course, I'm going back to college. Now I'm not finishing college, I'm going back to the military. Is it a little easier?
It is, because you're an adult and your dad's just like, what the fuck ever, dude. Like, you know, you made your bed, sleep in it. But I was like, but Dad, I'm so close right now. I've just got like some labs to do and I'll finish school. I'm active duty. I never used tuition assistance or Montgomery GI Bill. My pops helped out, but so yeah, it was like, okay. But when I told him that I was going to go to the Q course, now granted, he didn't know that I hadn't talked to the Q course guys, or I had talked to him. It was just a matter of me getting back in, and I told him that I was going to be a Green Beret. And finally, I go back in the Army and I go to Iraq as a medic with the 21st Combat Support Hospital. But yes, I did become a Green Beret, and I remember that was copious amounts of tears when I graduated something that that we all looked forward to me graduating.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to know the difference in your time alone and what you're thinking about when you're going through SFAS and the Q course, when you're alone with your thoughts, what you're thinking, and then when you're in Boise State and living up the party life, what are you thinking in your private time?
What could I do next? I think about that now when I'm in my private time. Like, what can I do next? I love to do stuff, and I've got a lot of, I've got a lot on the plate right now and some new things coming out that, are passions of mine. But I mean, Boise State, I don't, you know what? I was experiencing that big college life, that a lot of kids experience right out of high school. So I wasn't thinking too much. I think honestly, male chauvinistic, uh, I was thinking about getting laid a lot, playing hockey, getting laid, not really focusing on school because I wasn't a smart kid. I was just, it's funny. I was digging through some stuff grades and stuff from when I was in high school. And I wasn't a smart kid in high school, but it turned around because then I was, my wife and I were looking at some grades from like medical courses and stuff. And she's like, Jesus, A's and B's. And it's like, yeah, at some point I hit a marker and really started to mature. So, but in my off time, man, I'm just, I don't know. My brain's everywhere. I try and control it, but if I'm not doing something though, it's doing stuff is my sanity. Thinking of how helping others makes me happy. And I've always been that way. Having been a medic, uh, having gone to war, like how can I help people? So much so that I've got a plaque over here that my first team gave me that says you acquire more shit than an 18 Charlie, because I loved being able to do things for the guys on the team, whether it be, you know, supplements from bodybuilding.com, or you name it. I was getting all sorts of shit sent to the teams. So I'm just constantly thinking shit and it makes me happy. If I'm sitting idle, uh, more so when I was younger, it drove me nuts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes I'd get up and have to go run like 10 miles for no reason, like I'm not a runner. Can't do it now. I got 2 partial knee replacements, but,
Right.
um, yeah, my mind is a funny thing. And I've seen scans of my brain before where it's just fire engine red and they're like, oh, we got to tone this down. But I still think it operates the same way, but yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about ego? We haven't really mentioned that one, but
Yeah.
Wookie is where you get that nickname while you're playing hockey.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds the legend and lore of Travis Wilson. How's the ego looking at that time?
Phenomenal. And it's so much so now. And I always talk about that, where my ego was, where the narcissism was back in those days. I recognize it pretty fucking fast in people now. Uh, in it, that maturity part of my life where if something clicked, I think the ego thing, like, man, I got to knock this off, because you know what, my shit does stink. And, but yeah, ego is huge. This is a funny story, kind of my mother was sitting behind 2 girls. It's embarrassing. And they were talking about Wookie and, the fun stuff that they did with Wookie. And, and my mother heard all that. Whew, man. Yeah, that was the things that get you emotional, right? Pissing off your mom. But yeah, but I loved it, Like it was like, yeah, that ego, that narcissism at that time. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
How do you explain that to your mom? What's that conversation like?
At that time, jokes, jokes. Um, we've never really talked about it just because and honestly, my mom is kind of a open, fun person like that to begin with, but I don't think she wanted to hear about her baby, and the fun shit he was doing with girls. But yeah, yeah, it was just jokes at the time and immature, idiotic jokes, and my dad being the PJ that he was, my mom going to the parties with him way back in the day and living that lifestyle. I think that she kind of expected it, like, oh well, that's how Big John was, and I recently found out I have another sister, because my dad was a playboy back in the day. And so Not that I was a playboy, but I was just having fun doing what guys do. But yeah, uh, yeah, we didn't really talk about it much, and to this day, still really haven't because I don't think she really cares anymore.
So how is the I gotta ask how the relationship with your parents through all of this, because it seems that at sometimes hearing your stories, doing the research, it can get a little contentious.
Are you talking about the stories with my parents?
Yes.
I mean, we honestly, they don't know a lot of the stories. My father's no longer with us. He died in 2009. Uh, and I don't really share much with my mother, and she doesn't get on the internet, and she doesn't, you
Well,
know.
I think more than the stories, what I mean is, obviously your dad played a huge role in your life, so did your mom, but with the goals that he set and the way he lived his life in the military, there has to be with him some letdowns when you decide I'm going here, I'm not doing this anymore, or I am going here. I almost got to feel like there's some rough points with your parents where they just do not understand what you're putting out there, and you don't, on the other side of that, don't understand why they don't understand it.
No, honestly, no, really, there wasn't too much other than like leaving Boise State. It was just like, okay, you're a grown adult, man. You gotta fucking grow up and live your life. So, um, my mom didn't say too much because dad kind of ruled the roost, in the house for the most part. He did all the talking. Uh, so, but yeah, I mean, I think, and the wars kind of changed things too. The conversations didn't go from, about things that I quit and failed or, all that bullshit. It went to my son's going to war, and so it really quickly shifted to, uh, you know, that to war, to conversations of war. Cause my dad did go to Vietnam a couple times, and we had that in common now. And I think that that made him proud too, having a son that, was in the service and off to war and doing what he did as well. I would love for my kids to join the service. Um, I don't know that I want them to go to war, but, I want them to serve their country. And I think that would be great. It'd be just another commonality, things to talk about.
Did you ever feel that he was proud of you before that? Because you just mentioned it for the first time when you went to war, that he was proud. Do you think he was before, and it just was displayed more?
No, you know what? He always said it. Even he's like, "Hey, I know." I can't remember the words exactly, but it was always, "Hey, I'm proud of you." As long as you try. That was his big thing growing up. Was as long as you try, you might fail. And I say this to my kids too. You might fail, but try. And I tell a lot of people today, just try it. Like, why are you talking about it? Just fucking try it. Just go do it. And if you fail, at least you tried. You did more than the other guy, And I think that could have also played into some of my ego. Like, well, I tried, and I did more than the other guy. So now I'm going to go on and do something else.
Well, I
Um,
think your big thing is you'll just outwork them. You're not better talented, but you'll just outwork them.
yeah, no, I have a former cadre guy I'm good buddies with still, and he'll tell you it was during phase 2. We were doing shoulder presses with our rucksacks, and he was just doing the cadence count with it. And everybody's stopping because they're tired, and it's at night and we're cold. And I just kept going, and he's counting. He comes over and gets into my face, and he's got a big old dip in. He's got these teeth, his Boston accent, and he's just screaming this cadence count in my face. And I just keep going and keep going and keep going. And I wanted to make him get tired of fucking screaming in my face. So, outwork him is, I like that. Yeah. I've never really said it like that, but I like to outwork people for the most part. Yeah.
Do you think too part of your personality is fuck that guy? I'll prove to him exactly what I can do.
Yeah. 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 At that time, for sure.
You think it still is now?
No, no, no. Well, it depends on the situation, really. Like I'm not purposely trying to outdo people, but if I'm challenged, then yeah, absolutely. Um, there are things in my life right now where you hear people, say things to people, and it gets back to you and they're like, all right, challenge accepted, and so, but now I know that I have to have a good team because I'm in big boy world now, and helping other people. and I really want it to be successful, and I want to be able to help folks. So it takes others, on the team to make that happen. So we're not just doing push-ups or, shoulder presses or, running or jumping out of planes or free fall, and trying to do cool tricks or, whatever. It's or shooting, it's now I'm dealing with lives and health and mental health and healing. So
All right. Talking about your dad one more time, when you're about to go to war, do you remember at any point of him giving you advice about going to war?
keep your head down. This is no, no.
Because it's got to be a different feeling for a parent who's actually experienced that life than a
Yeah,
parent that's just saying, "Oh, you're going to war." And it's not taking anything away from that
yeah.
other parent, but you've got to feel different. I know that all the time you spent in combat, if your kids were to go into war, you would look at it differently than your wife does.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my dad talked about his time in Vietnam. This is when I really got to hear stories about Vietnam and what he did. Growing up, didn't really hear too much. Um, but he always used to say that I knew he was scared because he always talked about close quarters combat, urban warfare, scared the shit out of him. And that's what they talked about. Like that was the future of the war and it was going to be horrible. You don't know where the enemy's at, none of that stuff. Well, jungle warfare to me, we've all seen the movies. You don't know where, the enemy's at in the jungle. They just started getting hosed down. So war in itself innately is scary as shit. So it was just different times. And so I wasn't as worried as he was, I don't think, because it's what I trained for, right? We trained for that urban combat um, and jungle stuff. I mean, at the time, Q course and phase 2 and all that stuff, we're in the woods, doing all the jungle stuff. Some of my cadre were damn near old enough to have been in Vietnam. But I mean, some of them
That
were
was the
like in the
last
Echo
of
course.
around your time. That would have been the last of those guys.
Yeah. Yep. So, um, but yeah, his advice really, there was really no advice. Just, I think he was more intrigued. He wanted to learn. He wanted to know. So he asked a lot of questions, and those are the things that we talked about and compared notes, if you will. Um, yeah, yeah. I think he was just proud that I was a Green Beret and he was a PJ, and I think some of his ego was coming out. Chest puffed up, like hell yeah, carrying on this soft tradition.
So when you get done with everything, not an 18 Delta, which is what you were originally, 18 Echo is what you changed to. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
communications.
Well, I
So,
didn't change. They told me I was gonna be an Echo.
well,
I showed
well,
up.
yeah, I guess I should say it that way. Is it a
Yeah.
kick to the junk?
Yeah, absolutely, sure was, and God bless his soul, the cadre, the TAC that was there, Sergeant First Class Nguyen, he passed away in Iraq long after or not long after his tour as a cadre member, but I showed up and it was like, it says Echo, I'm sure this is a mistake, and man, this dude chewed me out. He's like, if you want to be a Green Beret, you're gonna be an 18 Echo. Get the F out of my office, just chewing my ass out. And so I go out into the area where all the students are as we're, checking in. And I've got my hands in my pocket, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm done now. Cause if this same cadre sees me, he's coming out here and he's chewing my ass, like for my hands in my pocket. Oh, you think you're a fucking Green Beret already? And I mean, everybody was doing it. We were all standing around our hands with the pockets. It was cold, but he just decided to make an example out of me. But he pulled me aside not long after that in a rational kind of voice. It's like, hey man, listen, if you want to be a Delta, you're going to be a holdover for like a year and a half or maybe less. But they had so many 18 X-rays that got that MOS and he's like, you're going to be painting rocks and cutting grass. If that's what you want for the next year, and while all these guys go on and become Green Berets, then fine, we'll make you a Delta. And, or you can be an 18 Echo and start the course Monday. And I was like, 18 Echo it is. And it just so happened that the testing that said that I was meant to be an Echo, like I did all that in 1999, and there were, and all the testing that you do during the day and the night and all that, and it breaks it down and says what you would be better suited as. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. And granted, I hated being an 18 Echo, you know, but it worked out for me. I still did some medical stuff, saving a life and all that good stuff. So, um, and having gone to school for exercise science and, I just kept all that stuff current, but yeah, it's, 18 Echo. It was a weird choice, but whatever, made it work. And I had fun doing it. And I never missed a shot. If there's any 18 Echoes listening, trust me, I hated being an Echo, but I never missed a shot and I always did my job because, the dudes needed their porn on the team room. So make sure, everything was working correctly.
All right. Assigned to 10th group. I ask
Yeah.
this of everybody that comes on the show. You're going to the big show now. You're going to head into combat. I want to know sights, sounds, smells, emotions, thoughts as you come into country for the first time.
In Iraq,
For,
as a Green Beret, I mean, I
as a
was already
Green
there as a
Beret,
regular Army dude.
this is what
Yeah.
you have thought about and trained about your whole life. We can talk about the other stuff, but I think this is kind of the crux and the most important part of your career.
Yeah. Immediately, I remember because I left out of the same place that I arrived in. I left out of Balad Air Base, Camp Anaconda, and flew into Camp Anaconda, Balad Air Base. And I remember like, oh shit, I'm back. What's up? And it didn't look any different. Smelled the same. Smelled of smoke and shit. Uh, and haze over the clouds, or there's a hazy, you know, aura, if you would, with in between you and the sun. Um, Yeah, but we link up with our, outgoing team from fifth group, and it's really just a quick, right seat, left seat ride type of transition and handoff. And you're in the shit as soon as you are kitted up, your bags are loaded into the trucks, and you are heading to the team house. At that point, yes, I was like, fuck, now I'm leaving the wire. And, I could be the dude that goes back to the combat support hospital on a fucking gurney now immediately, as I'm leaving. Cause there were guys killed right outside Camp Anaconda back in the day. And, but yeah, but I was also extremely excited to be on the other end of, kicking ass, I loved saving lives. I loved working on all the patients that I worked on. It was phenomenal. Have some great memories, actually more memories doing that than I do of a Green Beret, believe it or not, in combat. Uh, so yeah, but there was some nervousness, but extreme excitement. Like I am a fucking Green Beret and I am going to do some great things. So,
Well, it's interesting though that you say that you have more memories of being a regular Army medic than you do as a Green Beret. And I almost wonder what that is, why that's even possible. Because, like we've said a couple times, you have your whole career, your whole life thought about being a Green Beret, and then you're finally there, and there's more memories at the other place that you decided to walk away from.
yeah. Well, I mean, being in the 501st was pretty awesome. I'd say that was one of the better duty assignments I ever had just because it was in Alaska. Um, so that was great. And having gone to Thailand, Guam, Korea, and just that experience, there wasn't fear of war. We were just training and having fun. And then that 10 months or so in Iraq as a medic, every day there was a body in front of me, um, every day, one that either didn't live or that did live. And so I remember many of those. They were just burned into, like, Charles Edward Bush, Lieutenant Leaf Knott, PFC Taylor. The first three that I remember, deaths. Kelly Hornenbeck, who was a Green Beret from 10th Group, who was on my table. One of the last guys that I got to help try and keep alive. Ken Lehman, who was his medic that came in. Mike Benkoski, who came in with a baby, who, had a trach. And their helicopter landing right outside our front door of this tent hospital, thinking, oh shit, the entire tent is going to blow away. Just the saving lives and on the receiving end and constantly wondering, like, where were these guys? Kind of like my dad when he would pick up Green Berets, as a PJ. Where did these guys just come from? Why is that guy wearing blue jeans? Why does he have a bandana on? They looked different. I remember those dudes looking different, and the patients they brought, or the patients anybody brought, and saving their lives or not. Um, and then kind of the release later on, it was really, if you've ever seen MASH and Hot Lips and Houlihan and all that, it was like that too. It was a good time, behind the scenes. But I have a lot of good memories of being a Green Beret. Um, I would say that it was a lot of work, good work though. Uh, a lot of range time, a lot of free fall time, a lot of training, lots of training, which makes sense because that's what we need to be ready to go at any given moment, right? I mean, we're in 83 different countries as we speak, constantly keeping your language skills. Yeah, I'm a Russian speaker. Я говорю по-русски немного. You know, you got to keep those skills up. Constant training, constant rotation. You know, black, red, white cycle. You know what I mean? So, um, and the combat deployments were, I remember those. They were awesome. Uh, I remember every time I got into some sort of tick, you know, or you know, some trigger pulling, saving a life. But yeah, I don't know. Just thinking about the regular army was and a lot of what happened there. I remember it a lot. I just remember it really well. But I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say.
No, no, and I, like I said, when you do, I think that too, some of it might have been that initial letdown of not becoming a Delta. I
Yeah,
think
could
that
have
we're
been.
talking about it differently. If you had become a Delta, if they would have started you on school Monday as a Delta, I think we're talking about a different Green Beret career yet again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, there were times, you know, there were some, you know, massive wins, you know, as an 18 Echo, like, hey, get up on the roof and install this entire Hughes, uh, you know, antenna on the roof in my kit. I mean, I would never wear my Kevlar on top of a house, but I had on my kit, and I'm up there, you know, doing some commo shit, setting up this entire Hughes antenna by myself. You know, I could take a sniper on because our team house at that time when I did that was the highest point in that area, and but I went out there and did that just so that we could have communication and entertainment because it was a, you know, it was a Hughes and, you know, satellite antenna. So I remember that, but I also, and then, you know, you get done and prepare for a night mission, you know, and that's what we did. It is, I remember them all and I had a lot of fun. But the adrenaline, like you say, like it probably would have been a little different. The adrenaline in saving lives and in trauma, I just remember. I remember the night that, you know, my teammate got shot in the chest. I remember it like it was yesterday, and that was trauma, and it was exciting. And I wasn't even supposed to go down there and help him. I was on another roof. I just happened to dual comms, and I hear, you know, they're calling for 18 Charlie 1, and he's not answering. And but I see him from a rooftop that we had just, you know, neutralized, and the other house had just, you know, erupted into a firefight. Uh, yeah, no, I remember all of it, uh, but some of it more exciting than the others. You know, I mean, yeah.
Let's go
I guess
through.
I talk more about the adrenaline type shit that gets me going and remember it more, you know,
uh,
than some of the other stuff.
Right. Well, let's talk about. I want to run through a couple different kinds of emotions, and we can talk about the whole career here, not just when you're a Green Beret. But I want to
Don't try and
know
pull the
that.
soul out of my chest now, buddy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about just a couple different kind of emotions. I want to know in your whole career when you felt the most fear, and it can be training, it could be the injury that happened, it could be combat. But when did you feel fear the most, where it's staring you dead in the eyes?
Yeah, no, I've got two distinct memories. One in Alaska, I watched a lieutenant burn. I was in the FLA. I was on medical duty in Alaska, Malamute drop zone. I remember the C-130 going over and this lieutenant jumping out and he coming down with a cigarette roll and eating dirt, snow. Like it was actually, snow saved his life too. There's a good 3 feet of snow out there on that drop zone, maybe 2 feet, but getting up to him and seeing this body and this, what I thought was lifeless, gasping for air, you know, in his final throes, but he ended up living, you know, and that was I questioned my medical integrity at that time. Do I know what the fuck I'm doing? And I just went through everything that I was taught with the ABCs of, you know, assessments and all that and doing what needed to be done. You know, getting chaptered out of the military, of course, but and then the second one again was another Jake being shot in the chest, you know. I remember it vividly. And now leading up to that was easy, you know. Helicopters landed near the buildings, you know, having rehearsed because we were watching these bad guys on IR all day. You know, these dudes, these bad dudes, were responsible for abducting a couple 82nd Airborne kids that we were, you know, hot on their tail, and we just caught wind that they were there. watched them with IR, lots of bad guys, lots of guns, kind of did some rehearsals, white engineer taped the buildings that we had really quick, went through what everybody needed to do. Helicopters land outside the buildings. Damn near I thought the blades were going to strike them. But neutralize the roof, clear the house, get up to the top, set up communications. Team leader and I are up there. Other house erupts into, a firefight. And, listening to that I'm listening to dual comms. I've got loitering aircraft. This was a big hit. We had a lot of people watching us as well. I mean, I don't know how far it went up the chain of command, but we had a lot of people watching us. And so, Charlie 1 was missing. Old Jake Anderson. He's still with us today, but he's down on the ground. I see some white light spotted on him. Our Iraqis, we had a squad of Iraqis each, and they took him out the back somehow, or a side door. I don't remember how he got to the kind of the left corner back of the building, but I just said, fuck, I'm going. I see Charlie 1 because everybody else is regrouping in the front of the building. And I just sprint down there by myself and slide in there and start talking to Jake. And he's quickly leaving us. He's cold. I'm cutting off his equipment and his gear and kind of assess the area. I probably could have moved him, but he might have bled out even more. I didn't know what was going on behind him. But yeah, I was like, fuck, I'm an 18 Echo. Am I supposed to be doing this? Like, am I supposed to be doing this? Where are the medics? The medics are on other objectives, in a firefight. So I just get to rocking and rolling at the same time on the radio and telling people where I'm at. And I don't know where Ty Fisher, a good buddy of mine, comes sliding in there like it's third base. And I start using his medical kit. And at this time, Jake's unconscious. And I've plugged some holes, lots of pressure on that arterial bleed in the brachial plexus region. Trying to, pack the back side of him as well because he's losing blood there. Am I doing this right? There's a lot of second guessing because I didn't go through the assessment of saving his life like I would have somebody else, because this was bullets are flying, I've got a guy that slides in to put himself in between myself, the patient, and the firefight, and shit's still going down. But we get Jake out of there, and the Iraqis, that squad of Iraqis, helped me get him. We turn on the IR strobe, and helicopter comes in, load him up. 18 Delta goes out with him, Matt Desmond. Jake ends up dying a couple times in the bird. He had, needle thoracentesis, all that shit to keep him alive. But he lives. But yeah, at that time, I remember, like, am I supposed to be doing this? And that one really, I remember being extremely emotional after that, hoping that what I did worked, because I don't know if I did it right. And man, that was a crazy morning because we were going to go back to the team house, but we had to stick around at that objective, and the Cav blew it up. They just leveled it. And we had some hostages that we did rescue. They weren't Americans, but they were other people. But we ended up driving to Balad because we got wind that Jake was so critical that they were getting him out of there to launch stool that morning. So we raced out to Balad to see him off. And it was, my questions, it was, it was validated when the team sergeant came up to me and said, hey, I talked to the doctor. And he said, whoever got to him first, did exactly what needed to be done to save his life. That's what kept him alive. And so, man, it kind of a moment, but yeah, pretty emotional time as well, So the decompression in my bunk at the team house was, was pretty tearful.
What do you think made him different?
As far as what?
That situation, because that one is so vivid, and you can tell from the way you explain it, that one is so vivid in your mind. Why is it so different from everything else?
I mean, I don't think it is. I can talk to you about some other patients that I treated prior to that, but because that was my first ODA, and Jake was really just a guy that, we weren't the same MOS, but we both loved to work out. We had the same sense of humor. He was the guy that was like, hey, Travis, you need to shut the fuck up, man. Like, you're talking too much, that kind of mentality. That's what he did when I got to the team. He's like, nobody gives a fuck that you were an honor grad, or, like that's the kind of, you know, message I got from him, more so than my own senior at that time. My senior was just preparing me to be a really good echo, because he was one of the best echoes in that company, and that's what he wanted me to be. And but Jake was like, he was the guy that kind of took in the new dudes and set them straight. Like, don't open your mouth, keep it shut. You're here for a year, you know, to even see if you stay on this fucking team, that kind of mentality, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, it goes back to
Um,
that family thing that we talked about before, that enlisted life, that brotherhood, or
yeah,
the family, whatever you want to do. That guy treats you more like a family member than a teammate.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I
And
think there's
so,
a huge difference in a family member and a teammate. We can talk about the brotherhood and all that kind of stuff, but if we're being real honest with the situation, there's only a couple people that are family in those
yeah,
teams.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
friends
you're
with
absolutely right.
everybody, you work with everybody, but family is reserved for special people.
Yes, that's 100% true, and I love that you said that, because I didn't think of it like that. And I am sitting here thinking about, I was on 3 different teams, and there are a few guys that I still talk to today like family. I remember everybody else, but there are just a handful that I talk to like family, uh, on a regular basis. And not all of them were dudes that I, sweated with or shed blood with, you know what I mean? But they're family. So yeah. That's pretty. I like that. Look at that. I learned something.
Well, there you go.
It's great.
It's what I do. I'm a giver.
Right.
So let's talk about your lowest moment, your worst loss that you think of.
My worst loss, my father by far. Yeah. I mean, he was my mentor. Uh, he was a guy that was teaching me about leadership. He pushed me to be the best at everything that I could be the best at, for the most part. Definitely let him down, but we had our conversations before he passed, and there was a lot of, they were conversations, joking conversations. I wasn't looking for forgiveness, you know what I mean? But the conversations, went that way. You did good, you did great, everything worked out. Those kind of conversations. So, sorry I didn't become an officer. Nah, fuck that. That wasn't for you. It worked out for you in what you did. You were meant to be an enlisted Green Beret and all this good stuff. So, yeah, that was by far one of the biggest losses. And I can't say that about, like, losing a child is rough. It's hard. I didn't know him, so I can't say that that was one of the biggest losses, but losing a father, a guy that raised you and you grew up with, for sure. Uh, Huge loss.
So let's circle back then, and let's talk about what we talked about in the very beginning. When you lose that son, and your wife has just lost her father, buried him, and now she's burying the son, or going through that, and you think about losing your father. If you could take that knowledge of that now, that biggest loss in your life, how do you approach that situation different back then?
It's the loss of the son.
Well, just in you understand that. Now you understand the loss of a father. Now you understand both of what she was going through. How do you approach that situation with the knowledge you have now?
With a lot more empathy, you know, uh, and caring. That's how I would approach it, because I didn't do that. I remember hugging and us having conversations about it, but um, yeah, I, I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough one. I definitely care a lot more than I did, because I didn't. I mean, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, and this is what I love about your story though, is you can literally, as you go through everything that you learn about you, everything that you watch about you, you can see you change over your story. You can see how your behavior changes in the stories that you tell, the what you put emphasis on in your stories. And as you get older, as you move throughout your career, you seem to take on more of a guardian role than I don't want to say a bad guy role, but Wookie, that guy out there that's just throwing it out there. You turn into an actual guardian over your career. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if we look at it, it's not only watching out for your team, but now you're watching out for guys that are going through the same shit you went through. You understand at a more molecular level now than ever in your life what these people are going through and what's going to work to help fix them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah. So much so that, I mean, I even talk about relationships. There's an article you can look up. I think it's in the Green Beret Foundation um, website, but I talk about relationships and Green Berets and when they should get into relationships and why it doesn't work for some people and maturity, all that good stuff. Because I want these guys to have an extremely successful career while they're in, but I've seen so many of them ruin it by choosing the girl that was right then, you know? So, but and so forth. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I enjoy being the guardian for sure, or the helper, the healer, if you will.
Well, and I think you would agree. They're looking for the girl, not the partner at that time. They don't know that it's
Yeah.
going to be a team working. They are looking at that's a girl that I'm attracted to. They're not thinking about steps down the road on it.
Yeah, but sometimes those steps down the road show up a lot faster than they should. Like there's a lot of Green Berets that I know that were extremely immature when they became Green Berets, 18 X-rays, that either got out or quickly learned, I need to mature,
Right.
your shit stinks, just because you got that Green Beret in your head doesn't mean that, you're a badass. So
How is your relationships going at this point in your career? When we're talking about, you've been back over to Iraq, because I think at some point when I'm looking through your stuff, you're not having great relationships and you're just trying to deploy over and over and over and over. You're just trying to get back into it. Can we talk about what's kind of going on in your life
right now or then?
back then?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'll tell you, I'm straight up. My second wife, it wasn't great, man. That was, yeah, I was immature. I fell in love with the veneer teeth and the fake boobs and the money. That's what I saw. It just so happened that we happened to make two amazing kids. That's the best thing that happened. I have a great relationship with my kids, even though they live in California. We talk every day, and a mildly good relationship with their mother as well. But at that point, man, I wanted to deploy. I wanted to keep going, and it was phenomenal. There's a hiccup in there, with just I think which started the spiral of our relationship, but and not like infidelity or anything like that. Just mental health issues on my part, where um, yeah, I was just a dick. But accused of abandoning.
How
You know,
hard
I,
is it to look in the mirror and say you're a dick?
then or now, now easy.
Okay, let's say the first time you do it, then when you have to look in the mirror and go, "You're a fucking dick, man."
I think the first time I didn't call myself a dick. The first time I ever said anything like that was, "You're a piece of shit." Uh, for just a lot of the shit that you've done in your life. Um, not now. Like there was a period of this line of demarcation where there was just a complete, 180 change in my life. Um, but it wasn't too hard when life is just thrown at you like it was for me. Like with my divorce, it was one of the worst times of my life. I wanted to start a shotgun for a hot minute. Like literally thought it would be so much easier to end it and not have to deal with this bullshit. Um, but there was some help with that in my mental health, if you will, being accused of abandoning, the wife, the spouse, as I was told. Yeah, I like to deploy, but I wasn't abandoning. It was a job that I was volunteered to do, signed a dotted line to do, and fell in love with. Now they do call special forces the mistress, and I can tell you that that's true. We fall in love with it. There's just something to be said about going to war or even on JSET missions and shit like that. It's a good job. And it's fun and it's rewarding and it's addictive. So yeah, but yeah, there was that line of demarcation. I was I remember like, you're a piece of shit and you need to get your shit together. Uh, but now no, I don't, now I just look in the mirror and think, well, what can I do better today? You know?
Okay, well, let's talk about that dichotomy, because you just said, I'm doing a job that I volunteered for, I signed on the dotted line, but I love, and you're a good guy. That's the whole point of the military. You're a good guy. You're helping these other countries. You're protecting America. You're doing all these things, but you're a shithead on the side. How does that dichotomy, how do you balance that in your head? And I ask a lot of guys this, police officers, I ask military guys, how do you balance it in your head? And at what point or what match point do you go, that other guy's winning now? That dickhead is winning now.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, I don't know how to ask me that again. Ask me that again. Cause I was at the same time you were asking me that, I'm just thinking of dickhead moments.
Okay. So we got the dichotomy here of you're a Green Beret, you're America's hero, you're protecting your country, you're doing all of those kind of things. And then you got this, Mr. Hyde over in the corner that's a dickhead and he's
Yeah.
just destroying everything around him. When you look at that dichotomy, one, how do you balance it for a while? And then what's the match point that you go, you know what, Mr. Hyde, that's who I am. I'm not this guy over here. I'm not the Green Beret. I'm not the hero. I'm not the good guy. I'm a piece of shit. And he's come out way more often.
Yeah. Well, you know, I you really have the help of the brotherhood, if you will. You go into the office, you go from the husband who nobody sees, you know, who's having those marital issues, um, who sits around and thinks about, you know, the crazy shit, uh, life would be better without you type of moments. And then you go to the office and you turn it on. You're an actor. We do a lot of role playing in special forces because it's part of the level 2 course, ASOT level 2 course, and level 3 course that you go through, or the RSE program that I was in. Lots of acting, lots of acting. So much so that your spouse can sometimes tell when you're doing it, and they're like, "Don't try that shit on me," you know. Uh, but you know, you get to go to work back to that mistress, and you feel great. You know, everything seems to be lifted. All that the weight of all the bullshit at the house is gone. Going to combat, the weight of all the bullshit at home is gone. I'm in combat now, and it's all about me. It might be a little selfish, but it's all about me now, and I get to fucking have fun and throw bullets down range and have a good time. But you know, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think about you brought something up, and I remember the other day, and it has to do with faith, because I do believe in God. I believe in Jesus, and I always think that I just said it the other day, like evil seems to be winning sometimes in my head, more so than really focusing on my belief in you know my faith in God, and it annoys the shit out of me. Um, so I mean, I think that's just a struggle. I think that we all deal with. You know, we're shitheads one moment and good the next. I try to be more good now. I know I am. I mean, my wife and I now have an amazing relationship, like amazing. I'm so happy to be married to her. Um, but yeah, it's. I hope I answered that question, man. That was
I
like
think
you threw that out.
while you were saying it, I thought of a better way to say it. When do those two guys become the same guy?
Almost when you hit rock bottom, you know, like when I went through that divorce and wanted to start a shotgun, it was like starting all over again. I need to shit or get off the pot and be happy. Uh, yeah, and I leaned more to the right after that. You know what I mean? Like in a good way. Um, it was now I have children that I have to take care of that aren't with me, but I now have to grow this career. Oh, by the way, I started a business while I was going through this divorce. Um, you know, and keep that going. Uh, Yeah, and then also I give credit to my ex-wife's cousin who, out of nowhere, when I was going through this hell of emotions, reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to go to church with us this Sunday?" And she knew that I went to a Christian school growing up, but obviously had gotten away from, faith. And I was like, the selfish part of me was like, I bet you there's girls there, you know? Serious, man. It's stupid. Uh, so I went to church, and yeah, there were nice looking ladies there, but it really shape shifted me, because I started listening. And it seemed like at that time, what was being said behind that, you know, the preacher stand, what he was saying really resonated with my life, and not necessarily in a religious way, but just in a common sense. Because that pastor at the time took common sense in the Bible and put them together. I was like, man, I have really got to clean this up, and really just started focusing on positivity on my life, and not women, uh, and not combat, and not my career, but really just started focusing on positivity in my life and how I can help others. And knew that I was going to be getting out of the army at some point, so focused on the business at the time, and then, oh, by the way, a couple years down the road, this awesome lady happens to be walking in front of me. Now we're married.
I want to talk about another part of, I think, a big part of your story, and that's your accident, because I think that's where in your career or in your life, that's where the psychological break happened. I really do. I think that's where you start to turn it. It's a free fall accident. You were doing a lot of free fall. You did so much free fall that you were one of the guys that was like learning how to integrate night vision into night jumps and free fall jumps and everything like that. You're at such a high and you're such an expert in that field, and then it all comes crashing down in one jump. Let's go through the emotions of it.
Whew. Well, I mean, I'll talk to you about just leaving that plane. Like, there's always that emotion. That was a fun trip, man. Our entire ODA was, we were working with night vision goggles and different modalities. I mean, um, all sorts of fun stuff at that time. Jumping with bundles out in the desert, bundles with parachutes attached to them that would fly directly to our designated impact point. Like, you name it, it was great. Yeah, one of the last jumps that we did was in Eloy, Arizona, and I exited last. And like I always did, I was the first one on the ground though, because I'm a giant kid. And chute opened, everything was great. Dual comms, talking to everybody in the stick, and I turned on final about 500 feet or so, and hit a night dust devil is all that we can come up with, because the 15.6 didn't show anything wrong with the parachute, but it collapsed on the right side. There was a team on the ground that even heard it and saw it. So it must have hit something in the air, wind wise, that collapsed that right side of that chute. It just happened. And so I spun all the way down for the most part, had enough lift to keep me alive, but smacked the ground. Some of the guys on the ground said it sounded like two rocks slapping together. Obviously hit my head. I remember the medic. I don't remember the medic. I remember his flashlight, and I remember fentanyl lollipops in my mouth, and him getting to work, and then everybody getting to work. And what I thought at the time was taking me off of a fence post, because in my head, I thought that I was impaled by a fence post. I don't know why I thought that. My back was broken. And so that's what I thought they were doing, but they were really just loading me up onto the backboard. And yeah, it was crazy. But I think that later, having known that I had the TBI that I had, that nobody wanted to treat or didn't even talk about really, they knew that I had a massive concussion, but go sleep it off. Later on is
Oh,
when I
that's a
started
good
feeling,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah, sleep off that concussion.
yeah. Well, you're going to be in the hospital, so they'll take care of it there. Yeah. Well, I mean, and so I talk about that now with all the blast injuries that you go through, the overpressure shooting, all that stuff. It all compounds. You've got those micro lesions on the brain. I just so happened to, at that time now, really screw my head up even more. And yeah, I went to the hospital for a week or so, and needed spinal cord compromise, all that stuff. And they wouldn't let me leave until the swelling went down, till I got the feeling left in my leg. But yeah, that was definitely a turning point in mental health. I say mental health.
Worse than the divorce?
I was still married at the time. It
But I'm
added to it.
asking,
Oh,
now that you look at it and you can compare the two, was it worse?
no. No, the divorce was worse just on how that happened and how that went down. That was just a complete fucking betrayal. Um, with ad hominems of, fucking abandonment and all that shit, accusations. So, but it compounded the things that built up with that head injury, and not being treated, really started to affect, my focus, my cognition, um, emotion, all of that. It added to, the divorce for sure. So,
How was your
yeah,
anger? Were you angry?
fired up, fired up, as red as that freaking dot is. Yeah, I was angry all the time. I was hot. Uh, and I really just thought it was the relationship, but it was a combination of everything. Because there were times that, well, fuck, why did you say that? You could have not said that. You could have controlled your anger and your emotions. Why did that just happen? Um, yeah, it but it compounded, and so much so that I was like, okay, I got to see somebody, and couldn't focus, and went to the shrink, and they just threw pills at me and said I had ADHD. I'm like, what? You serious? And they go, oh yeah, it happens. And like, she went down a gamut of all kind of questions. Shit, are you hypersexual? Are you this and that and the other? I'm like,
You're a Green Beret.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I'm sure, yeah. Like, what are you getting at later? Are you just checking the block and throwing fucking pills at me? And she did, and she threw pills at me, like everybody else did too. I didn't. And one thing I'm happy I couldn't take pain pills. They made me sick, so I never got into that. Um, and the ADHD, I tried the medicine. I tried uh, Adderall. She started out pretty high, and that just was horrible for me. I did not need it. I did not need it whatsoever. Um, but yeah, it was
Okay.
crazy.
So that brings up even more questions. You're seeing this shrink that is not doing it for you. We know that. You're still a Green Beret. You're still having to be that guy. Like, that's it. You're a Green Beret, but you're broken. You're broken in a lot of different ways. I think like 13 surgeries, knee surgeries, ankle replacements, all of these kind of things. You're not that guy. Whether you want to be or not, you're not that guy. So how do you live that life? We talked a lot about acting and role playing. How do you live that life? Because you're definitely not him.
No, no, and I quickly found out that I wasn't him when I couldn't keep up anymore with the guys, and I was moved into more of an intel. I don't know if you want to take a dude with a head injury into an intel position, but they did. So I went to like an agency handshake type of program called the RSE at the time, singleton operation type stuff, and didn't have any permissions or authorities at the time, but still went over to Lithuania and did some work. Um, but yeah, no, I knew that I was not him, and yeah, it was at that time though, it was still, and I was going through divorce at that time as well. Um, and all that really just compounded into that week that I talked about. I could just really start a shotgun and end it. And nobody would have to worry about this. I wouldn't have to worry about it. But this kind of goes to ego and narcissism. I have too much of an ego to kill myself, but also faith. I soon, at this time, is when people start asking me, hey, you want to go to church and all that. And I do believe that, well, it's a different story, but I believe in my faith and committing suicide, and not committing suicide. So, but yeah, man, I just started this where the church thing came in. I really just started to focus on positivity and really focus on that. And I don't know if you're not religious or not you, but I'm just talking to anybody that's listening. I grabbed a Bible, a student Bible, and just started reading it for the positive things in it. And regardless of what you take from the Bible, it is full of a lot of things that'll make you feel great about yourself. And so that's what I started doing, and just highlighting things in that student Bible, and it worked for me, and it made me start to course correct. So
Two things from that. Honestly, and I want a very honest answer. While you're still working in that intelligence position and you're doing the singleton operations, you ever have doubt, self-doubt on yourself that I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna mess this up. Is there even for a half a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally did.
How do you deal with it? Because you got to tell yourself on a singleton mission, you got to cut that shit out and get back to work because there's no one coming to save you.
Yeah. Um, how do you deal with it? Um, I you know, you just grab your balls and get to work. You know, you got to brush those thoughts aside. Because this is now what you also volunteered to do. You were thrown into it, but you have to say, yes, I'll do it. Um, so, you know, those emotions are just, you got to quell them, which we do really, really well as Green Berets. We can push those emotions really, really deep and hide them and do the job and get the job done. So I think that, you know, that's what I did for the most part. Yeah.
And number two of that, you just said that you at that point would just grab the Bible and read stuff to help you out, right?
Yeah.
But in all of your stuff, why do you think that you still, because it's self-admittance on here, you struggle so hard with your faith?
I struggle with my faith even today.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. Why is it when you know that the simple answer is you can go in there, you can feel better about yourself, you can read that Bible, all that kind of stuff. Why do you struggle so hard with your faith?
I believe that, and it's what I've been told, is that once you accept Jesus Christ into your heart, that the evil is going to work even harder at getting you away from God. I truly believe that because I mean, there was that period of, I believe in God, I'm going to heaven, He's my Lord and Savior. And man, I feel like the, you know, thoughts of impurity, the, you know, lust of the flesh, all that stuff seemed to kind of come in even harder than before because before it was easy. Nobody was messing with me. It was great. I could just go out and have fun and do it and not feel bad about it. But yeah, I truly believe that.
You
Yeah.
think that's when your selfishness went away?
For the most part. I mean, everybody still has a little bit of
Of
selfishness every
course.
now and then, you know.
Yeah, but
Sometimes I sneak that last chocolate and before without telling anybody, you know, it's mine.
right.
But yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the remainder of it went away at that point. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on you said that they didn't want to treat this TBI. You start realizing at this point that it's more than physical breakdown. It's a mental breakdown. There's a lot of different factors that are being involved in it. You're taking your time to study it, look through it, learn modalities, all of those kind of things. So how frustrating it is to you that you're telling the army and you're telling the military, I need this. And they're just like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We'll put you with this person. They'll shove pills down your throat. And a ton of guys that come on this show say the exact same thing. That's how they get hooked on pills. That's how they do all these things. How frustrating is it to go, no, there's a better way, but you're not listening?
Extremely frustrating. I recently got to sit down with the Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins, and he truly, truly, I don't care what people say, he really wants the VA to course correct itself and be an amazing entity for our veterans. Um, but you know, even their hands are tied. Uh, you know, it's frustrating, and I don't know what to say because I'm not at their level, but all we can do is keep telling them what works. You know, what's worked for me. I mean, stem cells is what I'm into now and regenerative healing, and it helped me. I had a stutter on an S from that accident. I had a shake in my left arm from that accident. And it wasn't until I went to the Brain Treatment Center for 8 weeks and got into stem cells and how it really started to calm my brain down. It took it from fire engine red to the normal colors and frequency that it's supposed to be. Um, to, you know, taking the stutter away for the most part. Occasionally I get stuck, but I mean, that shrink told me that the stutter I had was from PTS. I'm like, no, because I didn't have it before, you know, smacking the ground like I do now. You know, I mean, it might have been there, but not, it wasn't as prominent. But the shake, oh, that's PTS as well. What? No, I'm telling you, it's not. I know what my body, I've been living in this body for a long time. It's extremely frustrating, you know, to tell people what, but again, I'm not a doctor, so they're not going to listen to me. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy that has done these treatments and it's worked for me. And oh, by the way, I took 24 other special operations guys at the Bahamas to be treated with stem cells. And those guys will tell you that it took away my plantar fasciitis right away. It took away, the pain in my shoulder. It helped my brain. I feel much better. You name it. I've got plenty of guys that'll say the same thing about, some of this regenerative healing that I'm helping do. So it is frustrating, but all we can do is just keep moving forward and talking about it and showing proof, which we're doing at Project Recon.
How many guys, and not an exact number, but how many guys do you think are still floating out there and no one has even looked into why they're having trouble? They haven't looked into it themselves, because I think that's the most frustrating part is they don't know to look for help because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, no, I think they do know. They do know. If any soldier tells you that they don't know, then they're lying, because we are told monthly, weekly, by your command, if you're having, these thoughts or these issues, seek help. This is what's going on, because they don't want suicide on their command. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants those self-injuring, alcohol-related incidences, none of that stuff. So we're told continuously, even after the fact. In my community, we're constantly telling the brotherhood to reach out, ask for help. I say it all the damn time. Not that I've touched every single one of them, but they know. And that infuriates me. But I will say this, that I've known soft operators, for the most part, if they decide that it's time to ride the lightning, if you will, they're doing it. They're just doing it. They're not talking about it. They aren't asking for help. They just do it. And that part sucks, but I also will say this, and it pisses people off. You step over the bodies to get to the next one. It's just like going into a house. If your teammate goes down in front of you, you step over his body and keep, attacking, keep leaning forward in the foxhole, if you will. And that's what needs to happen. So how do you get to everybody? You just got to keep talking. And sometimes it takes comments like I just made to really piss people off, to make them think. But yeah, it's frustrating as hell. But everybody knows to reach out for help. Everybody fucking knows to reach out for help. If they say they didn't, then they're lying.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me take it in a different way, because I want to disagree with you a little bit there. How you talk about, because this is even in the law enforcement community, and this pisses a lot of people off when I say this. It's even in the law enforcement community. Of course, we have people that say, oh, if you're feeling this way, go see this person. But for the majority of that, it's a joke. That's a joke. They tell you go do this because exactly the reason they don't want your misfortune on their hands. And that's the only reason they want that. Not because they're concerned with helping the person, changing the person. They don't want that on their hands. And I think it's an epidemic among military, law enforcement, first responders, because that's how it's approached by commands. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, but we're in the business of killing, So, I mean, not cops for the most part, but there's a lot of soft operators that are cops now. I mean, we're treating one right now who's a soft operator and a police officer, who's going through a lot of shit in his head. But I'm glad he reached out for help. I applaud him. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't know what to say to that. I call, because I was there too. I got it. Like I had my issues that I was going through, but I didn't really bring them up with the chain of command. I just did what I needed to do, myself. You don't want to look like a pussy. You don't want to be kicked off the team.
But that in itself, that statement in itself, and I've heard it a ton of times, that's a crazy statement. You don't want to be kicked off the teams. That's even an option or something that's floating in someone's head, that I have to keep this hidden, not get right, in order to stay on a team that's making me not right. That's a crazy point to me.
It is. But we also, I think at that time when you're going through whatever you're going through, you're not thinking about the other options out there.
Of course.
From mental health to other job opportunities within the special operations community. if you are having issues that you can't stay on the team, man, raise your hand and talk about it, because there's other positions that you can be put on, whether it be at the group or within SOCOM or you name it. There's positions all over the globe that need soft operators. And some of them are pretty freaking amazing. Like I've heard about some, like, man, I wish I'd have known about that. I'd have volunteered. Taking a break from team time, I think should happen. And they try to make that happen by going to be a cadre, a trainer and all that stuff.
Right.
Um, but I know guys have stayed on the team. I mean, shit, I stayed at 10th group my entire career. I didn't go do cadre time or any of that stuff, school time. So, yeah, but
When you look back, do you regret that now that you didn't go schoolhouse for a little while?
oh, no, I regret not going to Europe. And I went over to 110 just for work when I was in charge of all air operations, and because I rewrote the SOP for 10th group. But I regret not going to Europe and taking a team in 110. Schoolhouse, I just hated Fort Bragg at the time, and I was like, I don't ever want to go to Fort Bragg again. But now I've been back a couple times. Like, it's beautiful here.
Any particular reason why you hated it at the time, do you think?
Probably because I was getting smoked all the time, and I don't know. It was ghetto. Fayetteville is just not my cup of tea, you know.
Southern
but
Pines is nice.
yeah, I know, and I never spent too much time out in Southern Pines other than going to bars, so I didn't really experience it, or Pinehurst, but I've been out there a few times since, and it's gorgeous. I'm like, I could live here, and but yeah, yeah, I just regret not going to 110 and taking a team. Yeah.
So what's the thing that you think made you start down this? Because it's always kind of been there. Your medical, how much you like being a medic, your father and the things that he did. But what do you think it was that made you go into this area, Project Recon, the nutrition stuff, all of that kind of stuff? What do you think was that match point that got this going? Because like you said, you didn't talk about it anymore. You just did it.
Yeah, the parachute accident, a year or so after that, I was like, well, I don't know how this is going to play out because I'm still kind of hurting, so let me have something to fall back on. Loved health and science and fitness and supplements. So I just started researching how I could open up my own supplement store. And I did. And it was called Caliber Nutrition, and built a team around that, helped me operate it while I was still in active duty and going through a divorce. And yeah, and it's morphed into a bigger Caliber Nutrition and Fitness, where I moved into a bigger space, and personal trainers rented that booth space from me, if you will, and they trained their people there with all the equipment I had and the supplements, and it turned into Alpha Elite Performance, into what it is today. But yeah, health and fitness has always been my thing. And then the brain health was being introduced to the Brain Treatment Center in San Diego, and finding out that my brain was really fucked up, really red, really on fire still. And it made sense because I thought that I was doing good, but there were still those moments of fire that, I mean, it wasn't evil, but it was just, it was a fire inside that wouldn't go away. And it was so hard to tame, you know? And so when I went to the Brain Treatment Center and they showed me, look at your brain, look at this frequency. We all have a frequencies, and yours is way off. And we need to fix this. And oh, here's a black spot on your brain too. Like, well, what the hell is that? And like, we don't know. It's not a tumor, but it just wasn't showing up in the scan.
Please tell me you said it like the movie, though. You said it's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
Yeah.
No, she probably, the nurse said it, probably the nurse practitioner. But yeah, and then I started feeling great, man. That magnetic,
the resonance.
Yeah. Therapy. Yeah. It is phenomenal. I started feeling great and calming down and just kind of course correcting that brain trauma that I had, and rewiring the frequency. And it was phenomenal. I started learning about frequency, and everything has a frequency, and this phone has a frequency, this bag of cameras has a frequency. Like, everything just has a frequency, water, you name it. And so I was like, what is this witchcraft? What are you talking about? But it's not witchcraft. It's just, the whole earth is just one giant frequency, if you think about the north and solar polar stuff. But anyway, I digress. I got into stem cells soon after that, and the combination of the two just worked. And I was like, I want to share this with the world because it worked for me. And yeah, I just was more empathetic, more loving, um, more emotional. Uh, you know, there was a time that I wouldn't cry at anything. And I'm not saying that I cry now, but I watched a rom-com once and got all choked up, you know? I mean, it's like, what the hell is this? This is emotions. This is great, you know?
What is this
I'm a Rio
liquid coming
boy.
out of my eyes?
Yeah, sweating immensely. But but yeah, it was nice to start feeling different. And that different, I guess, is the norm. And it shows because I have an amazing relationship with my wife now. Uh, I think we've been in 9 years, 10 years together, 9 years married. I think we've been in argument, not even a fight. Like there has not been one fight like I've had in my past, and that's amazing. Uh, you know, this relationship is full of touch, uh, you know, conversation. We're together 24/7. How many couples can say they're together 24/7 and don't fight? Like it's crazy. So, I lucked out. I hit the lottery with Emily, and I always tell people that I hope they find their Emily. Because, but when I say that, I don't mean like the person, but I mean fixing whatever it is that needs fixed so that you can have that Emily, you know, is what I have, you know, because this relationship wouldn't have worked either without fixing. And it was nice to have her on this journey for a majority of it, you know, because she's got to experience it and do it with me. So,
Do you think you're a better man?
um, yeah, I do. I mean, I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was a different man. I'm a different man, you know? I mean, I was a good dude. I was just egotistical and I don't, yeah, I mean, I'm not breaking the law or never was breaking the law or any of that stuff, but yeah. I think that I'm a changed man, a different man for the right reasons, you know?
With this relationship that you have now, this new one that you think, you know, the way you feel about it, it's different than you felt about all those other relationships that you had. And you still talk to those people. Do they notice a difference in you?
I think so. Yeah. Not my second wife for the most part. Still, we're friendly, cordial. There's a weird dynamic with that one. Um, but with everybody else, yes. I even see that, you know, with some of my teammates. I think that they actually, uh, the ones that I'm not particularly super close to, but I think they enjoy talking to me more now so than in the past. You know, I was out at 110 last spring, and one of the battalions or company sergeant majors there was my old junior, and he knew me at a time that was just dark. It was a dark place for me, and I apologized to him for it. And yeah, he thanked me for it and said, "You know, man, I kind of needed that. I needed to see it. I needed to experience it because he's kind of going through dark periods of his life right now as well." So,
Your partnership with lesser known operators, um, what kind of brought that on? Because he's a great dude, and I think he's trying to do the exact same thing, is to tell people, if you're broke, get it fixed, because it's not going to do anything but get worse.
yeah, no, Nick reached out to me. I've always been an ambassador for the Green Beret Foundation, and then I took a director role there until I left, started my own thing as in the nonprofit industry. But he reached out and just wanted to help, and he's always been that way. He's a very kind man, and wants to help because he experienced his own, uh, you know, shortcomings, if you will, with brain trauma, alcoholism, and he got sober and realizes that, you know, in some cases we can't do this alone, and so he wants to help. Um, it just goes back to saying that there's another guy out there that's out there telling you about it. That's telling you, you know, just ask for help. We're here. There's somebody always there that's going to help you. And Nick's just another one of those guys that wants to help, and he's good at it. I also think this is part of his healing as well. I truly do. I think that um, he is. I think he's just searching still for what's the you know, his why and what's next. You know, so I think he's going to find it, or he has found it. It's just now got to morph into uh, you know, whatever he wants it to be. But I'm always here to support him, man. He's awesome. He's wonderful. What he did for Project Recon, going around with Squattober, and squatting at all the state welcome signs, and I mean that was great. He said he was gonna do that. I'm like, cool, all right, we'll see. And he did it, and it's awesome. So we just presented him with a plaque. Looks like a lifting belt.
I saw it. That was very, very cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the organizations, what they can do for people, how people kind of get a hold of them, because I think more than anything in your life, this is going to be your calling card. I don't think people are going to
Yeah.
remember Travis the Green Beret, Travis the hockey player. It's going to be this guy.
Yeah. Well, and I don't care if they don't remember me. So much so that like I'm the founder and the chairman of the board at the moment, but I brought on Anna Richardson, who is just full of not wealth, I'm sorry, knowledge and of of this community. She's a veteran herself and a spouse and of a Green Beret. And I worked with her at the Green Beret Foundation. And I was like, I come up with all the ideas, but you gotta have a good team. And she's perfect for position of CEO, and making this a better foundation. So they're going to remember Travis for a hot minute and that I might have started it, but they're going to remember the foundation Project Recon because of what Anna and Jess, who is our COO, another rock star from the Green Beret Foundation, and what they're going to do with it. Cause they're going to do some amazing things with it. Even after I'm gone, however, I hope to be around forever, but not forever until I'm supposed to go home. But, they're going to remember the foundation for sure, for what the team is going to do with Project Recon.
So let's
So
talk about what's so amazing about Project Recon is you're mixing two different styles. Your traditional medicine with new modalities. I don't think a lot of people are on that yet. People I think are one of two schools these days. They're either new modalities or they're traditional medicine. How do you bridge that gap and let people understand, no, we need a little bit of the old and a little bit of the new to really solve this problem? Because as we all know, there's not a magic bullet out there in any one of these therapies.
yeah, no, not at all. No, Western medicine's great, for the most part. It's just when you start getting extremely experimental with it, with stuff that just comes out and start chucking it into people. But I'll tell you, I mean, I call stem cells a gift from God. I mean, it is, they come from cord blood, at least the ones that we deal with, unadulterated, ethically harvested cord blood stem cells. And they're little miracles. They're little ODAs that get into the body and just get to work at, repairing cartilage and joints to help healing microlesions and restoring neuroplasticity in the brain. They use them for all sorts of stuff, dentistry to, you name it. They're phenomenal. You got 102 different cells in your body, and they're going to get to work to become one of those 102 different cells. And, the cells that are there, they're going to call on your own cells to come join the party to even, do better things. So, um, Western medicine's great for when it's needed, and then stem cells, and other regenerative modalities like the biomat, which is, it sounds foo-foo, but it's a mat that plugs in the wall. It's a grounding mat with blue amethyst crystals in it that also affect the parasympathetic nervous system to help calm you down. I love that thing. I thought it was voodoo till I got on one and laid on it, and it just chills you out. It heats up to 140 degrees or something like that. You go to the website biomat.com to learn more about that. There's all sorts of stuff out there that I've tried. And between the biomat, brain tap, which is it's a light, sound, listening to, a therapist on the other end, that thing is phenomenal. And the science behind it is proven. Uh, there's a lot of wonderful things out there that we're going to start, you know, hopefully we got to raise money, obviously, right? For Project Recon. It's not cheap. But we're dealing with three guys right now, that were, veterans and active duty, uh, that we're helping with stem cells right now. And it's not cheap, but it's healing. And, I mean, y- once we start launching all of the befores and afters, from Project Recon, not from anybody else, and people are going to see, wow, this is great. I've got plenty of positive reviews from guys that I've helped in the past for different things, but not from Project Recon. But it's, if anybody that doesn't know anything about stem cells, just look it up. How can stem cells help me? And then you'll be like, why is this not everywhere? Why is the only state that actually made it 100% legal Florida? Why isn't it 100% legal in all 50 states? Why does it have to be under the scope of research? Uh, and we all know the reason why, and that's big government, big pharma. Um, but they just need to get on board because a lot of orthopedic surgeons are getting on board as well because people are requesting it and they're having success. So, yeah.
So how do we do that? How do we change that? Of course, you've met with the director of Veterans Affairs and all of those kind of things, but how do we get it out to the people that don't know about it? Because I think a lot of people think the exact same way that you did. That's voodoo. What are we even talking about here?
Yeah, no, it's just you got to be vocal about it. There's plenty of information online about stem cells or any of this type of regenerative health healing, but I also see a lot of facilities starting to open up across the nation. So they're talking about it, and people are hearing about it. But that's word of mouth, just to tell podcasts. That's why, this is like my third podcast in a week, and because I want people to know about stem cells. I mean, yeah, Project Recon for sure, but stem cells in general are phenomenal and they heal. And the bullshit that you hear from some of these doctors, I'll call them out. There's some I would call out by name that say, it's dangerous. And, no, it's not. It's not. And the proof is in the pudding. I don't have There's not one person that I've helped that's had any type of negative reaction to stem cells. But there's a lot of bad hombres out there that are in the stem cell game because, they recognize that it is the future and it's an opportunity to become a bazillionaire if that's what you want to do. So there's people that are abusing it and giving it a bad name. But yeah, just word of mouth and educating people. And you can educate yourself by this little computer that we're talking on and Google and diving into it. But yeah, it's phenomenal.
All right. We're going to wrap this up by one more question.
All right.
You take this Travis Wilson. You're going to talk to 3 people. Okay. You're going to talk to the younger you. You're going to talk to your father now because I think you're a changed man since you had lost him. And you're going to talk to a new guy coming into Special Forces. What do you say individually to those 3 people?
Younger you, what I tell my kids all the time, I wished I would have listened to my father. I say that all the time. He always had the right thing to say, and I wished I would have listened to him more times than not. So really pay attention, listen to your dad, and take it from there. But my father, man, I guess we were pretty tight. So, I guess I just asked him like, hey, what do you think? How am I doing? But he, we talked all the time leading up to his death. So he would know. I guess I just really just bring him into what I'm doing, into the fold of everything that I'm doing and look for validation because we all look for validation in everything we do. But it means more when it comes from your father. But yeah, I think I'd just be his best friend, and then the Green Beret coming into group, a new Green Beret.
New Green Beret.
I think that it's pretty simple. The first part they hear all the time: you show up, you keep your mouth shut, and you do your job. You earned the Green Beret, but you didn't earn the opportunity, to be on that team. You earned the Green Beret to go to group. You can be kicked off the team at any given moment. So show up, keep your mouth shut, earn the right to be there, and then don't be afraid to ask for help. We know you learned everything you needed to learn in the Q course to get there, but you don't know everything. So ask for help. Don't fucking step on your toes because you think you know everything, because you're going to fuck up. So show up, keep your mouth shut, do what you're told, but don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no shame in that because the team is, very cohesive. Like teams compete against each other. And if the team is operating at the highest level without any fuck ups, they're going to get the best missions. They're going to get the best J sets. That company commanders be like, okay, 0434, you guys are killing it. You guys are going to go over here and do great things. So, and that just is because everybody works together. They ask questions, they feed off each other. So keep your mouth shut, ask for help.
All right, man. Let's talk about where everyone can find you because I really want them to get on board with you. And I think you've got a great message out there. So let's put out social media, websites, anything where people can find you.
All right, cool. Yeah. I mean, Travis Wilson, I'm on Instagram as Travis Wilson Green Beret, also Project Recon. Recon is R3CON. the three: regenerative healing, regenerative health, all that good stuff. But projectrecon.org is the website. You can go there if you want to make a donation or just learn more about stem cells and what we're doing, elite brain health. Projectrecon.org. And then my supplement company is Alpha Elite Performance. Alpha, because, ODA Alpha, elite special forces, and performance. We all strive on performance. AlphaElitePerformance.com. You can also find that on Instagram as well under the same name.
Man, I'm so glad you came on here. I think this has been an amazing conversation. You have just an amazing story, and I really am honored that you came on here to talk about it. Guys, you know where you can find Travis. Let's talk about where you can find me. As always, you can find me on Instagram at the DTD_podcast. You can find me on Facebook at the DTD podcast, and you can find me on YouTube where all these conversations, they're in video form at Dynamic Tales Delivered Podcast, the DTD podcast. But make sure you go to the one-stop shop, dtdpodcast.net. That's going to be audio, video. I'm going to have some more pictures of Travis on there. His episode's going to be on there. All of his links where you can get a hold of him and find out more about Project Recon and the things that he's doing out there are all going to be there. dtdpodcast.net. Make sure you go check it out. As always, make sure you share, like, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. It really helps, and it's absolutely free for you to subscribe to this channel and really take a part in it to grow the show. Also, make sure you go check out my buddy Hoot over at nomadicresearch.com. I'm telling you, if you want to be cool in anything that you're wearing, backpacks that you're using, anything that you possibly think that could make you look better, Nomadic Research has it. They have hats, shirts, hoodies, backpacks, travel gear, anything that you need, nomadicresearch.com. Make sure you go check them out and tell them we sent you. Guys, that's going to be it for this week. That's Travis. I'm DJ. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See you later.